G'day humans, welcome to the safe space for dangerous ideas. Happy 2026. I hope your holiday season was festive and delightful and you're looking forward to the new year. This is a little palate cleanser to kick the year off, something a little bit more entertaining and amusing. Sammy Petersen is a stand-up comic. He's the former host of the long-running podcast Confessions, which ran weekly for 7 years. He's a fascinating person because as well as being funny, he suffered a heart attack on stage at the age of 26 due to what turned out to be a congenital heart condition, and he took a 6-year break from stand-up. And that challenge, along with the fact that he was born with facial palsy, which he often incorporates into his comedy as a way of disarming audiences, makes his experience of the creative process really interesting. We talked about podcasting and comedy and addiction and disability, self-deprecation and the ethics of comedy and punching down. I hope you enjoy as much as I did the one and only Sammy Petersen. So your podcast you do out of your house.
Yes.
Which is probably more convenient and also more annoying.
More annoying because it's a setup every single time, which I have.
You don't have a room?
I don't have a room. I used to have a room. You don't have a room.
You don't have a room? No, but what I mean, I'm like, hey, get this swine out of here.
You don't even have a room.
He have not even a room. I mean, you have a room, but like, I would have thought that if you're going to do it at home to stay sane, and maybe you've just gone, don't need to stay sane.
I don't need to stay sane. I did it. I used to have a podcast room in a place that I used to live in. Recently, I moved. It's a 1-bedroom place, and I had to do to make it a clean, nice place to live in. I didn't want to have podcast stuff around all the time.
Yes.
My guests would probably my house guests would probably sit down and try and record a podcast all the time.
Right.
I once had a dog sitter that came and stayed for me, and she said, "If you ever want me to just record a podcast for you while I'm here," and I was like, "No, you just look after my dog."
No, that's fine.
And so
I'm pretty set on the podcast front. Thank you.
I'm pretty good in the podcast.
I definitely have dog walking needs.
That's right. That's right.
Dog sitting needs.
They're different, actually.
Yeah, very different.
Needs.
I'm pretty good with my podcast.
So after that, I packed it all down, and now it's like set up and packed down every single time. So every time I come to a place like this, Deep and Meaningful Podcast, I always just think this is amazing to have a setup that's kind of ready to go. But I imagine you have to set this up every single time for you.
Someone does.
Someone does.
I have
You've never met them.
I
don't know their names.
They bring me to work in a rickshaw and they carry me in a throne.
You did say
with palm fronds.
That you walk through a kitchen to get here sometimes of a cafe downstairs.
That's true.
So you're so showbiz.
I feel bad about that. So this is an interesting question of etiquette and like cultural taboos, right? Where the studios here are above a cafe.
Yeah.
And in that cafe, you can either buzz we don't have a swipe card to get into these studios, right? So every time you have
don't know anyone's names.
I don't know anyone's name. I don't know where I am. I don't know who they are. I've just blundered in
Come
here.
with your sunglasses on and your rickshaw.
As long as they carry me inside and cool me with palm fronds, I'm happy. So you have to press a buzzer to get upstairs. A little bit of a hassle. Okay?
To press the buzzer.
To press them. It's more the waiting of
you are showbiz. I didn't know you were like this.
I have a dialing wand like Homer Simpson when he gets too fat to press the buttons of a telephone. My dialing wand, I press the buzzer, a solid gold dialing wand.
Yeah.
And then, it's more the waiting for the thing to buzz.
Yeah.
Who has 12 seconds in this busy life?
Not in this biz.
No, exactly. In this economy.
That's showbiz, baby.
Who's got 12 seconds?
That's right.
Sometimes what you can do is if you pretend that you're going to the toilet of the cafe.
Yes.
You can pass through the back of the cafe, out through the kitchen, and that will take you both to the toilet but also to the stairwell to get up to the studio.
It feels sanitary to have the kitchen and the toilet right by each other. Because
there's often a chef just shitting in the kitchen, which is... No, so the question becomes to me, if I buy a coffee, I think I'm probably entitled...
You're allowed to walk through the kitchen.
To walk through the kitchen even if I don't need to go to the toilet.
Yeah.
If I don't, I'm certainly
level of privilege.
But also, if I buy a coffee every day,
sure.
Do I need to be walking through their kitchen, taking a pretend shit just to get to the stairwell every day? My producer says yes. He's fine using his kitchen privileges with impunity. I think it's a bit taboo because there's always a staffer in the kitchen clandestinely eating.
Who you are.
Well, no.
Get your rickshaw out of here.
Yeah, also my rickshaw is very large. It occupies the entire kitchen. No, but they're always trying to scoff down a toasted ham and cheese sandwich in there for 3 minutes.
They're sitting on a crate and they've got,
yes,
they've got 3 minutes. Yeah.
They don't want me seeing this. I don't want to be seeing this.
Yeah. It's like a loyalty card.
Yeah, exactly.
After a while, it's your own loyalty card. Keep the free coffee. I want to go through the kitchen.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah.
I'll pay you for the coffee without getting a coffee if you'll just let me not have to wait the 12 seconds.
I think
so
it's
I
fair.
do the 12 seconds.
Yeah.
I
The
just
12-second rule.
I just wait for the 12 seconds at the door. And
You've
that's
changed.
It.
Now you're waiting for the 12 seconds. At the start, you were saying, I can't wait 12 seconds.
What do you reckon? What is appropriate?
I think waiting the 12 seconds makes sense, but also if you know and you've spoken to the staff at the cafe.
We haven't.
No. Or I think it maybe needs a bit of a conversation.
Right.
To say, I work here, is it okay if I go through sometimes? I'm buying coffees all the time. And then you can just walk straight through and they'll know your face. And I think it's less weird than you just barging through with your coffee to the bathroom.
See, this is the kind of common sense advice for which people come to Sammy Petersen. In fact, you had a podcast which was all about analysing people's requests for advice.
That's right.
On Reddit.
Yeah.
How did that come about? Tell people.
So it's called
that.
Confessions.
And why doesn't it exist anymore?
I did it for 7 years, and it was every week for 7 years.
You say that like that everyone knows that 7 years is the limit at which a person gives up a podcast.
You have to.
I reached 7 years. What do you mean?
Sadly, Daryl Summers did not. But it was 7 years, so I did it for... I'd never had a week off in the 7 years of doing it, and that meant, which is wild by itself, I once in lockdown in Melbourne, I ended up doing about 4 episodes a week, and then it was 5 episodes a week, and a friend actually called me and said, "Are you okay?" And I think that was the ultimate test of he's putting out way too many podcasts.
I mean, it does seem like poor management and self-care to not take a week off in 7 years.
Absolutely. And I could have done best of episodes, but I kept going. And basically the podcast works is that I deep dived Reddit and I would find confessions and I bring it to 2 people every single week. And every single week, that was so much fun. I love sitting down with 2 different people every week. But after deep diving Reddit, I don't know how much you've done it, Josh. After deep diving Reddit for 7 years, it was coming up pretty dry and I was bottom of the barrel stuff just because I was doing 4 confessions a week.
Right.
And you went through a lot of stuff. I became, I think, quite hardened to things that I would never bring. Because on the podcast, I never wanted to bring an incest confession. I never wanted to bring...
Boring.
Yeah. Oh, yawn fest. I'm on snooze control over here.
I'm going to start a podcast called Confessions: Incest Edition.
Up late, incest.
It's basically
like your big brother up late.
It's the NCIS spin-off of your podcast.
Called incest.
Is that the sex crime version?
I think
SVU.
SVU.
Yes.
Yeah, Special Victims Unit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you could do that. You could do that late at night.
Confessions SVU.
But mine doesn't exist anymore, but yours is still going. The spin-off is way better. But yeah, so I didn't want to bring the really awful things because I realized very quickly, and I made the mistake early, not of doing incest ones only, but I made the mistake very early on bringing a confession there was a lot of grey area on what was happening around consent, and I brought that to a guest, and I did it in a way that was like, this is funny, and then they went, actually, I don't think that is that funny because of this, and I went, oh shit. And so I had to be a lot more careful.
You got woke shamed.
I got woke shamed, in my own home.
Yeah, exactly. You got Me Too'd on your own podcast.
In my own home. Disgusting.
Right.
But yeah, so I had to kind of find...
Was the guest basically saying like...
They were like, oh, maybe just take that one out. And of the episode, because they were like, oh, that could look pretty bad.
Because no one's ever allowed to be uncertain about consent.
Yes. Well,
it should be... Yeah. An aggressive... The woman should aggressively yell, I want it, stick it in me.
That's right.
And if she doesn't
do that... As people often do.
Then we all know that it was rape.
That's right. But it was hard to find the confessions. And as 7 years, finding 4 every week, I kind of started to be a bit desensitized to the things that I was looking at on Reddit.
Yes.
And then also... having to spend 3 hours a week on Reddit to find those 4 became even more taxing when I could just probably have a nice conversation with a friend every week and do a podcast like that rather than...
I don't need to be wading through all this. You should do a podcast where you have to look at 8chan all day, every day to get.
My God.
That'd be interesting.
Because 4chan kind of took over from, what was it? Was it 4chan, then Reddit kind of came out of that?
Well, I don't think Reddit's ever been nearly as bad as those things.
No.
But I think 8chan is even worse than 4chan was.
Yeah.
It's basically just neo-Nazis and pedophiles.
What was the frog that they made a neo-Nazi in? The Pepe.
They made the frog.
Was he right-wing?
Pepe
or was
he a right-wing
Was
frog.
he a full Nazi?
Yeah.
Nazi
No.
frog.
He was tame in comparison to your Nick Fuentes today.
But I loved doing it. But after a while, I kind of found that it was a little bit repetitive after a while as well, because it was someone shitting in a pool every single week.
I hate to break it to you, but it's not only podcasts about Reddit that are repetitive. Indeed, all podcasts, including this one, I'm sorry to say, can be somewhat repetitive. I mean, it's just old Zepsy with somebody every single
old
show.
Zepsy.
Old Zepsy
so
on his,
he doesn't want to wait
on his
in the buzzer.
rickshaw. Yeah, exactly.
But
talking to somebody.
After a while, I was just like, I'm taking a break right now from it. But I also had a huge year this year where I came back and started doing stand-up again. So it was a full year of traveling around. It was a full year of doing 2 other podcasts. And so it was just a full year of going.
Yeah, people have too many podcasts as well. Just pick one.
Yeah.
And crying out loud.
Crying out loud. And so I needed to stop. I needed to take some time off.
And this tour is your first full-length one-man show, essentially, rather than just doing, your 15 minutes or your set or whatever.
Yeah, or doing like a split show where you stand back-to-back with someone in a poster. As always, as is tradition.
Yeah, right. An unlikely match, or you come up with some cute name
Something
for the two
fun
of
like
you.
That. Pretty Good Fellas was one of the names.
Pretty Good Fellas.
Yeah, that was one of the names.
Nice.
Of one of my split shows. Three little gigs.
Three little gigs instead of 3 little pigs.
Yeah. It's great when I have to explain it. Makes everything
They're
better.
all right. I'll give them a B+. I mean,
a soft B+.
A soft B+. Nothing uproarious there. So how is it? What is it like doing it long? Because I know I'm interested in how when you were like 26, you just keeled over and had a heart attack that you were on the stage. I'm not joking. That actually literally happened.
Yeah,
you just fell over and almost died.
Yes,
literally. Yeah. On the stage,
doing what you love
and doing what exactly
to a room of 8 people. That's showbiz, baby.
I used to have a joke which I would occasionally do when I was doing stand-up in New York when I first got there. I did stand-up just to sort of try to hone my crowd sensitivity.
Yeah,
I think it's always helpful. And it was about a guy who got eaten by a shark in Australia.
Right.
His surfer friend, we were surfing obviously, and his surfer friend was being interviewed on the news, who said at least he died doing what he loved the most. And I would say it's lucky that what he loved doing the most was having his limbs ripped off by a vicious sea beast. Otherwise he would have been pretty pissed off about the whole being eaten by a shark.
I used to have a joke about because I talk about born with facial palsy, and I talk about.
Just explain that to people who aren't watching the video.
Yeah, so I have facial palsy
on the audio.
Where I lost a few of the nerves in the left side of my face when I was being delivered. So the doctors pressed the forceps.
Well, you didn't lose it. The doctors lost it.
The doctors lost it. They just can't find it. It's somewhere out there. Just retrace your steps.
So he squeezed the forceps too hard.
And it damaged half the nerves in my face. So I can't smile on both sides. It's I can only smile on one side. And I used to have these jokes about doing, like, just talking about people saying basically that I was disabled. Like, there's one person that just said to me, "When did you have the stroke?" So there's just
as a serious question.
As a serious question, right. A doctor that said that to me. And so after a while, I had this joke that I used to do, and it was a long time ago when I used to do it, and people just started going, "You got to stop doing this joke." And it was basically that I watched a documentary about a man that was born without any arms or any legs. And he said, "I do exactly what I need to do. I'm not disabled. I do exactly what I do." And I said, "Yes, that's great. You do everything you need to do. You just don't want to do very fucking much." And
oh my God.
That was a joke that I used to do, like when I was like 18 years old.
Oh my God.
And you look back at that and go, that's a horrible joke.
Terrible joke.
That's a terrible joke.
I mean, it's funny, but it's horrible. It's incredibly mean.
Incredibly mean. And that was the thing that I was like, the punching down aspect and everything is such a big thing in comedy where I avoid that now, even though I just told that joke that I said when I was 18 years old. But you avoid that sort of stuff because it's like, which is so hard because as comedy goes on, you're like, there's some really funny stuff that I have thought of or could say. But then, there's that buffer where you go, oh no, that's probably...
It's funny, isn't it? Because is it just the punching down or is it the tone? I'm just trying to think of whether there's a way to do that joke that would not land
would not be so mean.
Like, yeah, could the punchline be instead of like, what is the punchline? You
don't want to do very fucking much.
You don't want to do very fucking much.
It's probably the fucking,
it was like,
isn't it?
Yeah, a little bit. If it was like, has anyone ever talked to you about setting goals in life? Or like, like...
Yeah. I thought you were going to start that with, have you ever noticed?
Have you
ever noticed?
No, like to the guy, it's like, yeah, you're doing everything you ever wanted to do.
Yes.
You could set your sights a little higher. Or, like...
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, you could
yeah.
do fake lifting him up.
Yes.
Kind of things.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about paragliding? Like, you know, you could
bring it back, that 18-year-old joke. But also, like, the thing was that I realised, which you probably realised when you talk about actual people, it sometimes makes comedy a lot worse in ways. I've heard, when people have mean thoughts and everything, sometimes they pretend it was someone else. And I've always found that so fascinating to watch that in comedy and go, oh, that was actually them that did that, but they've just made it another person that I've never met that we can hate.
Yes.
And that's always been a really interesting thing where you go, well, you don't have to confess everything you've ever done.
Yeah.
You can kind of say, and then this happened to this guy. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
And everyone doesn't even know who they're looking at, but they're like, I hate that guy. That guy's the worst.
That's right. You mean you make up a fictitious person who's the target of the joke because it's actually you.
Yes. Yeah. Which is, I guess a good thing to do in terms of you can pretend it's someone else completely and go, oh, they've done a bad thing. They're the bad person.
I know, but isn't it more humanizing if it's you?
I think so. I really love comedy that's like a bit more, I don't know, confessional or a bit more self-reflective, or people can have, and that's the thing as well, we're all deeply flawed, apart from you, of course, but but we all are deeply flawed, and I find it really interesting when people want to have a clean cut image about themselves, because my favorite thing about a comedian is them walking around, touching their head because they're so stressed. Like, the old Richard Lewis, like, he was always pacing back and forth on the stage. You don't have to be as manic as Richard Lewis, but it was, I kind of like those sorts of comedians. Like, when you were doing stand-up, was it like, were you going up, you said to get a sensibility of New York, but were you doing it to understand the culture better, or were you kind of just going...
No, I was doing it to understand better what the relationship was between things I thought were funny and people's actual sense of humor.
Yeah.
Like, I just wanted to understand. I just thought it would be useful to have a sense of live crowds and how they operate and what this big, dark giant that is the crowd is. And like how you push it and pull it around. So
how long did you do it for?
Probably 18 months.
Yeah,
like,
okay.
Not as a full-time thing, but once or twice a week.
Yeah, well, everyone always says it's the most terrifying thing that you could do. Like, people always like to put that on you to say, I could never do that.
I mean, I think it is terrifying, and I ended up doing much more improv at UCB Theatre, which was my kind of aspirational thing, and I've always liked, the late night guys and, Conan and Letterman and Jon Stewart. So for me, it was less about being a stand-up comic, which was never a passion of mine, and more about just being in front of a crowd. And an improv crowd is a very welcoming crowd. They don't want you to fuck up.
Yes.
Whereas a stand-up crowd can be like, all right, make me laugh.
Yeah,
funny man.
Yeah. It's a bit of arms crossed, rather.
A little bit. And gee, it can be tricky to get them on your wagon, as you know.
It really can. Like, but also, like, the other thing is, I find, improvisation the scariest thing in the world. Like, I find getting up in front of a crowd and doing a character or going from scene to scene the most terrifying thing in the world. And I think most stand-ups think that improv is the scariest thing that you could do. Because in stand-up, you're so controlled and you know exactly where you're going. You've done it. You've honed it, hopefully. You've worked it out. But in improv, it feels like you're just going up without a net.
That you are, but as a result, it's more forgiving as well. Like,
right.
Okay, so I fucked up and I didn't get a laugh. Well, guess what? I'm fucking improvising, people. Give me a break.
Yeah.
Whereas sometimes I'd be doing stand-up and I'd be in a new room with a new crowd and I'd do a gag that kills and it'd be crickets. And I'd be like, it's like you're stepping off at the bottom of a flight of stairs and you think you don't know that there's another stair, and like, you're in the dark or something, and when your foot does that weird thing and you kind of stumble.
Yeah.
It's like, well, hang on, I thought the ground was there and now there's nothing there. And like, they're not enjoying themselves and I'm not enjoying myself.
No one's having a good time.
And I can't blame the fact that it was made up on the spot because I came with this joke in my back pocket and they know it.
I literally fell over on one of the steps the other
you
night on
died
stage.
also on stage, which we can get back to. But
yeah, okay.
So yeah, you fell over.
I tripped over.
You're like, you're not going to believe what happened, Josh. I tripped.
Was it worse than you nearly died? No, probably not.
So yes, all right. You tripped.
Yeah.
How did you start with the tripping
okay,
story?
the tripping. So this
we'll work our
one
way
of my great
backwards in
stories.
time towards cardiac arrest.
So I didn't see there was another step there when I was walking down. I was emceeing, and I tripped and fell and knocked over 2 lights on the back of the stage that were facing upwards to be some nice curtain lighting. And then I tried to fix it on stage while the comedian had started. But then I put the lights directly in a woman's face and she went, oh, like that. And I thought, I know, I just looked at it. I thought I was helping and she went, you weren't. And then a stage person had to come and do it. Someone was qualified to actually help.
God.
But it's a nice heckle to get you weren't.
Yes. And I bet the comic loved you for causing such a ruckus. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just trying to fix the light that I knocked over.
They've got their well-honed gear and they're really excited to be in front of the crowd. And I'm going, I hope that's okay. Don't mind me.
Do you mind if I shine it in your face?
You won't even know I'm here.
So how did you have a heart attack on stage?
So I started doing stand-up when I was about 18 years old, moved up from Phillip Island to Melbourne, which is only 2 hours away. Like it's a very short trip to Melbourne.
Yeah, but you just swallowed the words Phillip Island, which some people might not know, unless you clarify, is actually an island.
Yes,
so it may be only 2 hours from Melbourne, but it's not like you just pop up the road to Melbourne.
Pop up the road.
You have to get on a hardy ferry.
No, it's got a big bridge.
Oh, it has a bridge.
Yeah. So it's pretty much connected. Don't
My apologies to all Phillip Islanders.
You get some calls.
Yeah, exactly.
Just my mum.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, so Phillip Island, it feels rural, but it's not. It's a seaside town. It's known for penguins. They've got a penguin parade there. It's got a racetrack, but you can't really do a whole lot.
The penguin parade probably also requires explanation to non-Australians because it sounds like the penguins are marching down the street with a like a drum
and floats
and things. The fairy penguins come to nest.
Yeah,
it started out as a cute thing where people would go down and watch them.
Yeah,
it became such a huge tourist thing that now they've built what seems to be a NASA facility.
It's
down
huge.
there.
It's enormous.
Which has walkways, and if you pay more, then you can go in a little bunker with a little glass window. So you're at the penguins. They call it a hut,
not a bunker.
It's a bunker. It's a
You're rebranding bunker.
And you can be at the penguins' eyeline level as they go trotting past.
Yes.
Huge floodlights, and it's a big hullabaloo.
That's
what it's
really
renowned for now.
And it's huge. It's so much money to get in, and it's a big thing. And you can actually watch the penguins come up in other parts of Melbourne as well. You can go and watch them come up St Kilda Pier down in Melbourne. But, Phillip Island people go down in droves. Like there's full bus loads. People go every day. And so for the economy, it's great because that's kind of what Phillip Island kind of survives on, that and the racetrack. But God, they hate tourists. They always talk about the economy.
While they count their money.
While they count their money, they don't like the tourists.
Right.
But so I grew up down there and then would always get the bus up when I was growing up, like maybe 15. I would get the bus up to Melbourne and film for a local community TV station in Melbourne. And I go and interview my heroes like Glenn Robbins and Will Anderson and all these people. And I'd do like little interviews with them, go home, edit it, and then send it off on a little mini DV tape, the old little tapes that used to film on, and send it off. And that was what I did, and wanted to do stand-up comedy, but didn't know how. Loved Judith Lucy and Will Anderson and Fiona Lachlan, all these great Australian comedians, but didn't know how to do it. Like my parents never really they didn't really watch American TV or British TV. It was all Australian for me. So I only really knew Australian comedians. Right. And there was a lot of carnage in my home because my brother he started smoking marijuana when he was maybe like 15. He's a year older than me. And so about 15, he started smoking marijuana. That led to mushrooms, to ice. He became a schizophrenic, had drug psychosis.
Oh, shit.
And so my home was quite disruptive. I had a lot of restraining orders on my brother. The house was always a mess. And my distraction was my parents would just go to Melbourne if you want. Like, I just get the bus up by myself as a 15-year-old kid and find my way around Melbourne and find my way to John Clark, who's a incredible New Zealand originally, then was this amazing person in Australia who made a TV show called The Games about the. I'm getting better at explaining references.
This is good. This is good. Yes. I mean, I would just say he's probably the most respected satirist, satirical comedian.
Absolutely, yeah.
No longer with us.
No longer with us, and there's a great documentary
way too young.
about him at the moment. He died hiking.
Yeah. He also had a massive heart attack, didn't he? Just unexpectedly, and he was only like 50 or something.
I know, yeah. And so I just went up to Melbourne on the bus, which would take a little bit longer. It'd take about 3 hours because they stop every single stop.
In my brain, you still get the ferry. I'm sorry. Yeah, but in my brain, it's Phillip Island, windswept little island.
Yeah.
You know, you have to either get a ferry or like a sort of helicopter, which resembles one of those early Leonardo da Vinci designs. Wow. It's made of canvas and
one guy that can that can do it.
The local,
goes over every
exactly.
day.
That's right. Back and forth.
A lot of crashes. A lot of crashes.
Constantly. They've got a whole new fleet every day.
But no, I would just go up and wanted to do stand up, but didn't know how you do that. I didn't understand how you would just get up and do comedy. Probably because I had jokes, like I said before. Probably, you know, that my sensibilities. When you first start, I think most guys talk about masturbation and things. Like, you know, you talk about what you know and you talk about things that you would never say now, like just things. And when I see stand-up comedians starting out now, I go, yeah, you just talk about what you know. Like,
and did you know at the time that stand-up is basically scripted ultimately?
No, I didn't.
Because most people don't really know what stand-up is. No. I mean, to the layperson, it just seems like funny person gets on stage with a couple of ideas and spitballs.
Yeah.
Which, of course, is the way that many stand-ups start their comedy, not all stand-ups, not Jerry Seinfeld, and people who have a much more writerly approach. But a lot of stand-ups will go up with an idea and workshop it. But ultimately, the stand-up that anyone ever ends up seeing, if they go to a professional gig on a Friday or a Saturday night, or if they watch a special, is almost always almost word for word, verbatim, a scripted show, with the exception of crowd work.
Yeah, and they've been working on it for a year.
And when I started doing stand-up, I had no idea about that. I thought you just have a few ideas of things, and then you just go up and start talking. Didn't go so well the first time.
Well, there are comedians that do that, like, you know, Ross Noble or someone like that.
Yes.
Who is an English comedian that just improvises his entire set. Will Anderson, who you had on recently, he's now doing improvised shows.
Yes, but that's but they are marketed as this thing. Like, and you know, Ross is even Ross. I'm skeptical about how much.
How much? Yeah.
Same with like Eddie Izzard, who, like, when you see a few times, there are all these kind of tangential looping side tracks that appear to be spontaneous.
Yep.
But they just happen to happen every time, you know.
Well, Eddie Izzard had a lawsuit.
Or Billy Connolly as well.
Yeah.
Like, great storytellers who have intentional...
Yeah.
What was the lawsuit?
The lawsuit was that Eddie Izzard, everyone thought, was making up the material, and then had two different DVDs that featured similar material on both, and for some reason went through this lawsuit.
On what basis could someone sue for that?
That it said
you're more professional than you claim.
That it said it wasn't a brand new show.
Right.
And people got up in arms about it. There's a great documentary about Eddie Izzard called Believe.
Okay.
It's really fantastic, but it's like, it was just that they repeated material in two different DVDs.
Right, so people wanted their £12.99 back for the second DVD.
They got very upset about it.
Right, fighting the good fight. Yes, it's really important. These are the important things that people
very
care
important.
about.
But I just didn't know how to do stand-up. I met a comedian in Australia called Greg Fleet, who was known in Australia as kind of being the pioneer of comedy, at least in Melbourne. Like, Greg Fleet in the 90s was huge. Every voice that kind of came out of that generation was inspired by Fleety. He had that iconic voice. He was incredible, but he also had a 30-plus year heroin addiction. And I didn't know that when I met him, and I would just he'd kind of help me in workshops. I met him through a friend. He just helped me in workshops, and I'd give him $50 every single time. And then that turned into more money. And it was just kind of fueling his addiction. And I kind of worked with him for years. We had a podcast together, another podcast. Yeah. We had, we worked together for a very long time, and he helped me in my early days in coming up with a 5-minute routine, coming up with a 6-minute routine. And that doesn't sound like much, but God, like in the early days, like you would know that took That took 6 months to work out a 6-minute routine, which I always think is very similar to like claymation. You know, those people that just move slightly every time. And I feel like stand-up's a lot like that in a way, because you have so many bad experiences where it's not scary after you've done it for a long time. I think when I came back to do stand-up, a lot of people had that idea of, this is a guy that had the heart attack.
Yeah.
So, and that was also terrifying when someone goes to you, oh, that happened to you, that thing happened to you.
Yes.
And you go,
and then you're like,
I
I know. Yeah, is it going to happen? Are you saying it's going to happen again? Why are you saying it's going to happen again?
Yeah.
I mean, the funny thing about 5 or 6 minutes being a long time is that it's one of those crafts where you really want to be concise, because you need to squeeze as many gags into the 5 minutes as you can.
Absolutely.
And any time you're taking 30 seconds to set up an idea that could be done in 10 seconds, it's actually really hard to get think, all right, what is the most parsimonious way that I can set this up and then pay it off?
Absolutely. And be remembered, because like a lot of the time, if you don't go and see, if you're not a regular consumer of comedy nights, a comedy night that you go to in, you know, same in America as here in Australia, UK, you go to a comedy night and there's about, 6 acts on. Maybe if it's a really bad one, there's 12, like it can be a really long night sometimes. But yeah, you want to be remembered. You're doing a 5-minute bit, you're doing a 10-minute bit. If you're lucky, as you go on, you get to do 15 minutes or something, a longer set. But when you keep going, you want to be remembered. You want someone to go, after, when they walk away having a drink or something, they're like, oh, do you remember that person? That was really good. I want to find out more about them. I want to check them out.
So you decided to have a heart attack to be remembered.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
Everyone
That's
walked
the
away
only
going,
way.
do you remember that guy? The one, which one? The one who was doing
get a word
about, yeah. Oh, you mean the one who had a heart attack on stage and fell over
the physical
and almost
comedy
died? Yes, that one. I didn't want to mention that because it would have been a bit...
it's a bit awkward.
Awkward, yeah.
So I kept doing stand-up. I kept doing it for a long time. I was dealing with things from my brother that I think was trauma that I hadn't really dealt with in a way. My parents were still going through this, like getting more and more restraining orders on him. It was pretty horrible for them. And I was then...
Why? Was he just robbing them for his meth or something?
Yeah, and he was, smashing up the house and coming around, and he was really aggressive, and he would just smash up the house every time, and then they'd get another restraining order on him, but then, as a parent, their heart would break, and he'd measure out... I remember he used to measure out... He'd get a restraining order for like 400 meters, and he'd measure out 400 meters from their home, and he'd just sit there.
Oh my God.
And, so he was quite terrifying in a way, and we had there was just a lot of blow-ups and everything, and they had to still experience that while I was off in Melbourne doing, living a life that I think my parents were kind of like, this isn't going to work out.
Right.
Like, and
he's
like
paying Greg Fleet for his
He's
heroin
got
addict.
him on his payroll.
Habit.
Yeah, that's right. And so they saw me with, Fleety, and they saw me with later Fiona Lachlan, who's also an incredible pioneer in comedy, but also an alcoholic who went in a coma with a 13% chance of living. I was hanging
Really?
out.
I didn't know that about Fiona.
I made a documentary about Fiona
comic.
with Fiona, and she was an amazing comedian, amazing. But she had a lot of struggles, and she's been very open about that, and so's Fleety. But I was working with them, and I was opening for them, and I was rescuing them from anywhere. Like Fiona would be, collapse on a tram somewhere or a random fan's house, and I would go and pick her up, and I would help her, and I would be that person that was always on call. And I wasn't I was exercising, but I wasn't kind of taking care of myself in terms of, maybe have a night off, maybe don't do that, maybe don't run and help. And it was kind of like I was trying to fix my brother, which is, a very broad, any psychologist would say that.
Yeah.
And I certainly had a lot of, therapists over the time tell me that. And I was addicted to addicts. I got this reputation in the comedy industry, I think, as the addict's addict. I say in my show that I just filmed, I say in it that I'm not an addict myself, but I think I might be a carrier. Because of all the addicts I met in my time. And one night I had a huge day of helping, and I was feeling really nervous that day, and I don't know why I was feeling nervous. And I got up on stage and got my first joke out, which was about me having a stroke. And I could just feel my hands getting really sweaty. My knees started to buckle. My heart was just going crazy. And I woke up and I looked up at a crowd that were just horrified and staring at me. And the only thing I heard was a woman up the back say, "Is this still part of the act?" because no one knew if it was actually part of the show or not. And that was the hard thing. A comedian had to come and help me and take me off stage, take me to hospital. And I kept trying to do stand-up after that, but no one will book me because it was like...
Yeah, he's
fair enough.
Got a lousy ticker.
Lousy ticker.
And do they know why a 26-year-old had it? Because normally I would have thought, well, he's had a panic attack or an anxiety attack. He's way too stressed and his body has just shut down. But was it actually cardiac arrest?
It's got a heart condition called SVT. And basically it's like my two nodes don't talk to each other in my heart. And the communication between these, they weren't talking for some reason. They had a falling out. And so it's a constant thing where I do see a cardiologist, not sexually, just but we do I had to have this relationship with a cardiologist that I check in with, and I stopped doing stand-up for 6 years after that. I kept trying to do it, but I didn't want to terrify my family anymore.
Yeah, fair enough.
And I found out that the question that they asked me when I was in hospital was, have you taken anything tonight? I've never touched a drug in my life. So I was like, no, I've never done a drug.
I thought you sounded a bit lame when you were like, my brother started smoking marijuana. I was like, has this guy ever smoked pot?
No. Like, he started doing marijuana.
What person under the age of 40? Yeah, you said he started doing marijuana. Started smoking the marijuana cigarettes. That's interesting. When you say that you were helping addicts, like, do you still think of it as helping, or were you like enabling them? Were you the patsy?
Oh, yeah, I think so. I would never buy alcohol for Fiona. I'd never help Fleety, but I was paying Fleety, I'd give him money I think at the time I thought it was being a good friend. And then as you get older, you realize, no, you're enabling a drug habit. But I was not equipped with the proper vocabulary to say stop.
Yeah.
And I think because I was so young, I did not feel like I was able to say, don't spend it on drugs. Like, it feels like patronizing to say. And someone, who uses the term do marijuana, I don't think I was ever in the right state to say, sorry, Fleety, I don't want you to use this on drugs. I don't want you to do this. I think...
Well, you can't say that anyway. I mean, either you don't pay them or you...
Exactly.
Because they're going to do with the money whatever they want to. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I never...
Can't be like, make sure you don't spend this on the thing you love more than anything in the world. Right. Just make sure you spend it on something much, 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 much less desirable than the best feeling you've ever had,
in the world,
which will fix all of the terrible feelings that you have when you don't have it. Okay?
You promise.
Promise?
Pinky swear. But yeah, so I didn't have the right language to do that. And I knew that now that I look back on it, I was absolutely enabling that behavior. And I did it for a really long time as well. Like, this was years. I got sat down by two comedians, Justin Hamilton and Adam Richard, who are two great comedians in Australia. And they sat me down at one point and they were just like, what are you doing? Like, we think maybe we didn't do enough in the industry when we saw Fleety, when we were kind of being raised by Fleety in the comedy world. And we feel like you need help and you need to kind of step back from these people.
G'day, humans. Well, if you've listened to this much of the episode, then you must enjoy it, presumably, unless you're just listening for masochistic reasons. So you should listen to the rest of it. And the way you do that is by subscribing to the premium feed, where you not only get to hear the rest of this delightful conversation, and trust me, it gets better than what you just heard, but you also get to hear no ads, 0 ads. And previously, up until now, you had to go to the old Substack to do that and follow me on Substack and add one more platform to your life if you're not already on Substack. But here's the thing. We are now on Apple Premium Podcast as well. So with one click, Apple will just subscribe you up to the premium feed. You'll be able to listen to the rest of this conversation right now. So open up your Apple Podcasts, click the old Pay Old Zepsy button. That's probably what it's called, Pay Old Zepsy. And you click the button and then you no longer have to be a free rider. You can feel like you're contributing to the mission of this show, which is really what we're all here for. Better conversations, a freer, more freewheeling attitude towards the things that we can talk about, a way to steelman our opponents and to take the most gracious approach towards disagreement. That is what you're voting for when you vote for Uncomfortable Conversations by going into your Apple Podcasts and clicking subscribe. I love you. If you don't do that, That's fine. I'll see you the next free episode, I guess. Take care.